So we've reached our destination, to use a slightly cheesy travel metaphor, but we are on the last module. And we've done a lot, right? The little recap, we've dreamed up where we want to go, and then we've understood our needs. We've done all of the research and planning. We've then spoken with the top few on our list to triple check that everything is as we hope it can be. We've booked the accommodation. We've then done the other checking and planning around what to actually pack and bring with us. So the last one, I guess not wanting to end on a negative. It's not a negative. It's a reality that, even with all we've done before, you can still arrive and there can still be problems. As I say, that's just a reality. And that shouldn't put you off at all, but it's more to say that if and sometimes when that happens, you're prepared for that. So the story that I'll share, I've been to Tenerife many, many times. And I guess the more I've traveled, I probably sometimes got a little bit complacent at points, right? So I've always stuck to what we've talked about through this whole course. But the more I've done it, the more was in my head and just became habitual and quite natural. And having been to Tenerife 10, 20 times possibly, I just generally got more relaxed about the things. And so I remember I went on, I think it was called Home and Away, the website, but it's similar to the other ones we've talked about today. And then I found that, everything we've done here, I found the place that looked suitable. I contacted them, I asked the questions, they responded and said it was fine. So maybe I'm being a little bit harsh on myself saying that I got a bit complacent, because I definitely did follow this process. But maybe I just wonder in hindsight if there's something I could have double checked or looked a bit harder at. But ultimately, you can see where this is going. I land in Tenerife, get a taxi, I arrive at the destination, and it looks like there's a step going down into the courtyard to then go into another step to get into the property. And I thought, okay, but they've told me on the website that everything is accessible, wheelchair accessible. They've said that on the messages. So I then found the owner, who happened to be around the pool holidaying herself, which is kind of lucky that she was there, not in another place. But anyway, so I find her and say, we've got to the place and it seems like there's a step. Is there a ramp? Is there another way around? And she said, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't fully realize that you meant it was a power chair, and she thought that the step would be okay, which is like ridiculous. So she went to the cash machine, took the money out and gave me my money back. So I didn't lose any money in this. She refunded me, but it was about 3:30 in the afternoon, and I literally was homeless, so to speak, for that day. So we went to the local tourist office, and they were very helpful, and they started phoning around, and they were going to close in an hour or two. So it felt quite last minute, very last minute. And I think what happened in the end, they found a place. The room itself was accessible and had the important non-negotiable wet room, but the lift was a bit smaller. And so what ended up happening for the rest of the week was I had to take my foot plate off every time I needed to go in the lift. But at the same time, I then could sleep in a bed and I could have a shower and enjoy the holiday. So it wasn't ideal with the lift scenario, but it could have been a lot worse. I was honestly thinking, well, at least if I have to sleep in my chair on the beach, I'm in Tenerife, not Cambridge in December. So I was, trying to find the positives even in that way. But I kind of knew that I would find somewhere. I knew that in all of Tenerife there'd be somewhere, but it was just obviously a bit stressful when it was very last minute. So there's two things to talk about here. One is, if something goes wrong, like you arrive and it's not accessible, what can you actually do? So what I actually did was I found the local tourist board, having spoke to the woman who gave me my money back, and basically spent an hour with the tourism lady finding a place. And even though it wasn't perfect with the lift, it worked out okay. So I took certain steps that addressed the problem and found an answer. But the other part of it is the emotional, mental side. And part of me was freaking out, and part of me was stressed, and part of me was scared. But there was no benefit in letting that, affect me too much in the moment. But also I could have, for the rest of that week, only been remembering how bad that was and how terrible that lady was for telling me the wrong, I could have basically ruined my holiday by being really upset and really angry at the situation. But I chose to still enjoy the holiday. And I think that's probably the broader message, is that when you're going through all of this course, obviously the stuff about where you want to go is exciting. Understanding your needs should be quite doable and in your control. But when you start to connect with the real world, the information that's given on the websites won't always be correct. And sometimes when you have the phone call or the email exchange, that's why we talked about double checking and being very clear in the way you do it. But in the end, the world is the world, and sometimes things will go wrong. But do you let that stop you traveling? I say no. I say that you can always make the best of every bad situation. And I think for me, that's what I want you to take away from this last module, is don't pretend that bad things won't happen in life, because they will, but don't let that stop you from enjoying life and from enjoying your travels. And in a way, and this is a personal philosophy, but those challenges actually give you a chance to learn and grow and become a better person, whether that's traveling or not. But as I said, in the context of traveling, are you going to let it ruin your holiday, or are you going to still make the most of that beach and those mojitos and all those, great times like I did in Tenerife? And yeah, that's kind of the final thoughts I wanted to share around this topic.